As we all know, one of the main perks of RVing is being able to bring your day-to-day accommodations with you and personalize your rig to feel just as welcoming as a traditional house. There are plenty of ways to make your space feel cozy, but there's no quicker way of establishing the home part of your home on wheels than with the addition of 1, 2, or maybe even more companions who happily provide us with instant comfort. Of course, we're referring to the indescribable measure of love that we call our pets. More than half of all RVers travel with creature co-pilots, and considering many of us likely embarked on this journey in order to improve our lives, those of us fortunate enough to have pets know that a guaranteed source of happiness can come from simply bringing them along. But if the idea of traveling with your furry family members triggers feelings of worry and concern for their well-being, keep in mind that although some modes of transportation can be stressful, an RV actually provides a sense of security for animals much like it does for ourselves. However, they cannot adjust to mobile living as easily as we can, and therefore require a lot of patience and a few mindful steps in order to ensure their new rolling refuge is safe and enjoyable for everyone on board.
Many RVers travel with their pets, dogs and cats alike. We travel with our 2 dogs, Mocha and Bella. They get to go with us pretty much everywhere, and RVing can be a great way to travel with your pets without having to leave them at home or try to find hotel accommodations that are pet-friendly. To RV with your pets, though, you might have to consider a few other things that you might not normally consider while you're at home. First of all, packing for your pets. There are some things that they need to bring along in your travels as well, such as their food, water bowls, litter boxes, any other supplies or prescriptions that they may need. So you have to take that into consideration when you're planning your travels. You also want to think about, where is that water bowl going to live, and where are they going to eat every morning? Where is their bed going to be?
It's easy to assume that our cats and dogs are happy just as long as they're with us. But realistically, they need much more than just our presence to feel at ease. Creature comforts are your best friend when it comes to man's best friend. And just like a dependent youngster, your pet relies on you to make sure it has everything it needs to stay calm and carefree. This leads us into some central points on our handy and worthwhile list of considerations.
One of them is packing for them. These guys have quite a bit of stuff, and that all has to fit into the RV. That's their beds, their food bowls, their food, and if they're on a raw diet, you might need to look into getting an additional freezer. You also want to bring along their pet records. So if they have any sort of medical condition, you're going to want to take along those vet records so that should anything happen on the road away from your home veterinarian, you have all the documentation to help a new veterinarian come up to speed as fast as possible. You're also going to want to make sure that your pet is up to date on all of their flea, tick, and heartworm medications, as you're going to be traveling into and out of some more disease-prevalent areas. You're also going to want to make sure that your pets always have their identification on them, whether it's a collar on a tag or a microchip. Should you become separated from your pet in your travels, you're going to want to make sure that in case they slip their collar and lose their identification tags, you're still able to be reunited down the way.
Every animal has different needs and requires extra care when coping with big changes. So by taking the proper precautions when bringing them on board, you'll likely help them balance their behavior after you've hit the road. Some may love it right from the start, while others may take more time to adjust. In any case, hopefully you'll soon find your pooch taking ownership of the living space by claiming certain areas on the couch or kitchen floor as they become more familiar with their new mobile dwelling, whereas cats may feel more secure when settled on a perch observing their surroundings. Nevertheless, just consider that the most important part of the process is simply taking it slow.
If your pet has never RV'd before, you might want to get them a little acclimated to it first. Spend some time in the RV, not moving or going anywhere, so that they can get comfortable and used to the space. One of the frequently asked questions we get with our pets is, do we leave them in the RV when we're not there? You're going to want to be cognizant of that. If the RV gets warm during the day, especially if you're out boondocking, you're going to want to make sure that you're checking in on them, or maybe even look into some sort of temperature monitor or camera system to check in and make sure that they're okay. If you're hooked up to electricity, you can obviously leave the air conditioner on to keep them comfortable, but you might also want to consider any sort of barking problem. If you're in a campground and your dog is known to bark, you might want to ask your neighbor to give you a call if your dog is barking while you're not around.
The enclosed nature of an RV makes it especially easy to find a new chew toy, or better yet, leftovers. So whenever leaving your animal alone, even if it's just for a few minutes, be sure to remove any temptations. If you know you're going to be gone a bit longer, take your dog outside first for plenty of exercise to burn off energy. Another good tip for RVers with food hounds is having separate storage for doggy delights, such as a portable freezer. Securely packing away your dog's diet means it'll still be there when you get back and fresh for a well-deserved feast at mealtime. And if your dog has special dietary needs, having a portable freezer frees up space in what could be a small RV refrigerator.
If ever you do need to leave your RV for an extended period of time and your pets, don't worry, there are still plenty of pet sitting services and boarding facilities out there, just like you would have at home. We've even had pet sitters come right out to our RV.
The next point to consider requires a little more planning. You'll want to make sure that the destination you're heading towards is pet-friendly. Luckily, there's plenty of places that accommodate animal travelers all over the world, as long as the rules and guidelines are adhered to, and we remember to be courteous to our neighbors. Doing our best in setting an example as responsible owners by keeping noise to a minimum and picking up after our pups means bringing our pets along will remain a privilege we can all appreciate.
As for having your pets in a campground, you're going to want to check with the campground rules, as every single campground has different rules. Even before you get to the campground, you're going to want to check their pet policy to see if they have any number of pet restrictions or dog breed restrictions. Across the board, campgrounds have leash rules. So that means you keep your pet on the leash and controlled at all times. Now, some campgrounds do have an off-leash dog park area, but that is not every case. I would recommend keeping a spare leash in your car, truck, and/or RV so that you always have one easily on hand.
Animals make excellent travel buddies, and many of our experiences are enhanced when our four-legged friends are there to share it with us. Having any critters on board an RV means that their needs come first, but dog duties in particular encourage RVers to take part in more activities outdoors. Canines can accompany you in the water, on boat rides and bike rides, or just relax by your side at a sunset. Regardless of the activity, taking the time to stop and smell the flowers is one of the biggest benefits of traveling with pets, and chances are you'll discover places you may otherwise have overlooked along the way. While enjoying nature's bounty, remember to keep a close eye on your dogs and cats to ensure that they don't pose a threat to other animals in the area or suffer unnecessary injuries in the event of a run-in with local wildlife. Of course, sometimes accidents happen, in which case a well-stocked pet first aid kit is something you may certainly want to have on hand. We would also suggest locating the nearest animal hospital to wherever you might be staying in advance in the event of an emergency.
Hiking with your dogs is a great way to spend time with them and expose them to different places as well. However, you're going to want to be careful because not all places allow dogs on the trails. Dogs on trails can leave scents that disrupt the ecosystem, or they might kill or injure small animals. Having your pet with you can also create conflict with larger animals who may be trying to defend themselves, their young, or their territory. For these reasons, almost all national parks allow dogs in the developed areas, the parking and the campground areas, but do not allow the dogs on the trails. But don't worry, there are plenty of other pet-friendly hiking trails out there to enjoy with your furry friends.
As they're part of the family, including our pets in the enjoyment of RV life doesn't have to be stressful or overwhelming, considering they can adapt to change naturally and perhaps better than we expect. Bear in mind that animals find a great deal of contentment in routine, and although the sites and locations will change during their travels, as long as they experience a pattern of consistency with their schedule, including feeding, walking, and playtime, you'll help to ensure your pet transitions comfortably into a nomadic itinerary and gradually convince them that this RV is now home.
RVing with your pets can be extremely fun and rewarding. There's just a couple of extra things you need to think about when taking your pets on the road. Come on, girls.
For those of us who RV with pets, you may have already picked up on the similarities between the pleasures we gain from this lifestyle and those which are fulfilled by our animal companions. But more importantly, RVing in the company of animals reminds us that our travels are not about escaping from the present, but rather embracing it. This idea comes ever more clear if we take the time to observe our pets' modest behavior. You'll likely notice that animals are only preoccupied with what they need in the moment, whether that be remembering where their treats are hidden, scratching a stubborn itch, or chasing that boisterous ball. What is currently taking place is what matters to them most. The past is gone. The future is unknown, and the only detail you can really dig into is right now. While certain goals are great to have, it's just as important to remain open to other possibilities rather than focusing on a specific outcome. Our furry friends don't concern themselves with where they're going, which serves as a valuable reminder that enjoyment can be found around every corner. So take a hint from your free-spirited pets. Stick your head out the window, smell the air of adventure, and just enjoy the journey. As a television show, The RVers has an ability to magnify the different components of this global trend to better understand its growing interest. So far, the greatest confirmation of the allure this movement has comes from the sincere and personal testimonials given by those who have seized the moment. And this time, it's my turn. I'm Anthony Nalli. I'm the creator, producer, and one of the hosts of The RVers. This isn't my first rodeo. I've done television for a little over a decade now. We've had some pretty good success with another TV show called The Aviators, which over the course of a decade has become the world's most popular aviation TV series. Through this industry, I've been able to showcase my passions on a considerable scale, from my performance as a pilot to performing with my rock band Wicked Truth. And although my title as an RVer might seem like a recent development, the desire for this way of life actually began much earlier. I've wanted to RV since I was a kid. There was a Saturday morning sort of adventure show of a bunch of explorers going around in a mobile science lab. The show was called Arc 2. And it wasn't an RV per se that they were tooling around in, but it was an RV to me. And I would do two things with old refrigerator boxes or washer and dryer boxes. I would either cut holes in them and then draw a panel and make them an airplane, and I would pretend to fly them, or I would make it Arc 2, which to me was an RV, a really cool, funky RV. And really, I've always had the two passions, and I pursued aviation, but I tried to pursue RVing, no kidding, a couple of times over the many years. And we would go to an RV trade show or an RV exhibit or an RV dealer and look at one RV, then another, then another, then another. And then after an hour or two of looking at all different RVs, when we would kind of sit back and say, okay, well, let's digest some of the information we've just taken in and then revisit it. And a day would go by, and a week, and a month, and a year, and then a decade would go by. And we let that happen a couple of times. A couple of decades went by wanting to do something and then not doing it. And I mean, that's so not who I am. If I want to do something, I jump in up to here. I mean, that's how I do things. So finally, we were seeing a lot of North America filming for the aviators. But at the same time, we wouldn't be seeing any of it because we would fly to a destination, film, turn around, fly back. We'd see a lot of airports. We wouldn't see a lot of places. We wouldn't experience anything. And we thought we'd change that. My wife, Lisa, and I, who also produces the RVers and the aviators, we thought, well, we're spending a lot of time away from home, but we're not actually doing anything. We're not achieving something other than work and travel. So we thought we'd get the RV and take longer to get to these places that we need to go to, but also stay longer once we're there and actually get to finally experience them. For so many potential RVers, the dream of owning a home on wheels is the very thing that prompts a dive into a whole new lifestyle. Without a permanent address, such basic needs as receiving mail, renewing your driver's license, or voting in an election can be quite challenging. Added to this, many RVers are bound to feel a disconnection and lack of community at certain points in time, a feeling that may very well convince them to leave RVing dreams behind altogether. These fundamental needs are precisely what motivated the founders of the Xscapers RV Club back in 1978, when they began offering services, support, resources, and community to working-age RVers. In order to learn more about the past, present, and future of the Xscapers, I've traveled to Lake Havasu, Arizona, where the club's annual Xscapers Bash is in full swing. What made Xscapers happen?
So my grandparents, Joe and Kay, started RVing back in the 70s. And she was a nurse, and my grandpa was a union electrician. And so they ended up hitting the road full time. And while they were traveling, they would meet a lot of friends and family through their work. And it was really about just connecting and finding a way to communicate and bring a community together, because there was no cell phones or internet or email. That didn't exist back then. So they needed a means to be able to create that community, create that connection, and have a means to communicate.
Now, there's more to it than just organizing social activities. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting and useful practical benefits.
So that's kind of where it grew to from the events. So they were all getting together, having a good time. His grandma wrote a newsletter that she sent out by mail to all the members. And then eventually, when his mom got more involved with the organization and his dad, she founded the mail forwarding service, which is a big part of what we do today as well.
So in the absence of a quote-unquote home address, your driver's license, your phone bill, all these sorts of things would have whatever address you'd arrange for them per their preferences, and mail would go to that address, and then wherever they happen to be, you would then forward the mail off to them, thus a mail forwarding service. And that's the necessity for it. Is that to say that Xscapers and Xscapers, for that matter, really caters to a full-time RVer? And if you're not a full-timer, well, I don't need that service. I don't need to be a member.
It's not necessarily true. I would say the good majority of our members are full-timers, just because that's really where our resources cater to. But we pride ourselves on being an inclusive organization, and we've always been that way since the beginning. It doesn't matter what kind of RV you have, what your lifestyle preferences are. Everybody is welcome at Xscapers, and we do have quite a bit of part-timers, even weekenders involved, and they come to our events. We have a lot that partake in our community, and they just fall in love with it.
Education is a huge part of RVing. Understanding being safe, knowing the maintenance, understanding what you're getting into in the lifestyle, even if it's for a weekend or year-round, it really doesn't matter. You need that basis, and we provide a lot of education. It's always been another founding principle of sharing knowledge amongst the community, the members, and our experts that we have is a big piece of that too.
As a long-standing pillar in the greater RVing community, the years have seen the Xscapers evolve right along with its members. Yet when Travis and Mel inherited leadership of the club in 2016, they couldn't help but feel that some crucial needs of working-age RVers weren't quite being met. The result was the creation of the Xscapers, which functions both as part of and as a sister club to the Xscapers, offering the modern working-age RVer a place to call home.
So it was really about bringing the club back to its roots. So when Joe and Kay, my grandparents, founded the organization, they were working RVers. And actually back then, a majority of the club members, the founding 100 members, were working RVers. And we found over time that that percentage was dwindling. And the club was growing with the established demographics over the years. And you know, as me and Mel started traveling around ourselves a lot, we started noticing it being very obvious on the road was, hey, we would meet people like us who, you know, had a kid or were working or had the same kind of mindset. And we were like, hey, have you heard of Xscapers, you know, and told them benefits and stories. And at the end of the day, though, they would go, it's not really for me. I don't feel like that's my community. And we also saw a problem with that. We're a total support network for all RVers, and we weren't meeting that need anymore. And really, Xscapers was about trying to bring back those original roots to carry the legacy on and be inclusive and create a community for everybody.
We meet so many people at a new event and they're new members, and they say, I've been on the road for 3 years and I was ready to call it quits. And they were like, I happened to hear that Xscapers had this group called Xscapers, and I gave it a try and it changed my life on the road. Wow. Yeah, and now they're like, I have no intention of stopping.
Amongst all that the Xscapers offers to its community, the biggest in scale is the annual bash. RVers near and far congregate for days of entertainment, games, and social activities, complemented by educational panels and seminars by industry experts and fellow community members alike.
It is the best opportunity for people coming into the Xscapers community to have the best chance to meet people that they're really going to connect with and continue to travel with on the road. Some people leave here and they stay together for 6 months, and then they all come back and do it again the next year. But overwhelmingly, we've had right over 50% of the people here this year are first-time event attendees. And yeah, and every time I talk to somebody and ask how it's going, they're like, this is incredible. Like, this is exactly what I needed.
Diving headlong into the RVing lifestyle can be intimidating for any working-age RVer. But this is precisely why clubs like Xscapers and Xscapers exist. No matter whether you are a full-timer, part-timer, or even a weekender, rest assured that there is a place for you in the RVing community.
Whether you're risking leaving your job or starting out on your own, everything's a risk. And being around people who took the same risk as you and are as crazy as enough as you to live full-time on the road.
To me, it's just a very close-knit community, and everybody seems to look out, whether you met them today or, you know, you've known them for a year, it doesn't matter. There's just something there.
And that kind of goes across the board for RVing in general, not just in our own community. Right. It's the RV community as a whole is welcoming and friendly and helpful.